Would we all rise for the pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I wish all of our meetings were this well attended. A reminder, please silence your cell phones before we start. And before we wade into this, how many people are intending to speak? All right, what I would like to do is limit it to 2 minutes a person, please. And I would ask you that as you make points, try not to repeat other people's points, make different points. And with that, a roll call, I'm sorry. That's right, I lost one.
Mrs. Fryrick. Here. Mr. Posnow.
Here.
Mr. Robinson.
Here.
Mr. Sanders.
Here.
Mr. Scalette.
Here.
Mrs. Schrader.
Here.
Mr. Sears.
Here.
Mr. Toman.
Here.
Mr. Watt.
Here. Okay, if you would step up and give your name and address, and we will limit to 2 minutes.
My name is Rhonda Abel from 455 Ardmore Lane. I'm one representative of several to come of the recently formed Friends of York Suburban Music. Our group is formed to advocate on behalf of our music program and against changes to the York Suburban Music curriculum. We're here tonight in a spirit of transparency to speak to our serious concerns regarding the administration's proposed changes to our music education program, specifically the instrumental program. We appeal to you, our elected officials, so that you can make decisions with complete information. The administration presented the music faculty with a written proposal for the 2018-19 school year, which included a reduction of one staff member from 7 to 6 and a significant change to elementary instrumental curriculum. We understand this proposal was not made under direction from the board. The proposal indicated one teacher would now be responsible for all secondary 6 through 12 band instruction, both curricular and extracurricular, as well as shift the bulk of 4th grade beginning instrumental instruction from during the school day to before the official start of the student school day. The music faculty was not asked to collaborate on the development of this proposal or consulted on how it might impact curriculum, academic performance, or impact the culture of York Suburban. As word regarding the changes began to surface and spread, many concerned parents, students, and alumni emailed the administration and board to express their concerns and support of the music program as it currently stands. Several Friends of York Suburban Music attended the Academic Standards and Curriculum meeting on January 31st, hoping to formally hear the specifics of the administration's proposal. The brief presentation was light on details, therefore public comment did not have context because of the vagueness of the message. In addition, Dr. Redding's email dated February 2nd and his unannounced visit to the high school concert band, orchestra, and choral classrooms that day raised more questions and confusion due to the inconsistencies between what was given to faculty and what has been presented to the public. Fostering a healthy, strong, and vibrant music program is a key component to maintaining York Suburban's culture of excellence. We would like to address several specific points and hope members of the board take the following concerns under advisement.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda Kohler, 1396 Glendale Road. Current 4th grade music curriculum includes beginning group instrumental lessons. It should be noted that 4th grade lessons are the only in-school opportunity for students to learn their instrument. Our data shows that 90% of students do not take private lessons. 4th grade group lessons are the beginning of a sequence of in-school curriculum that builds the foundation for playing an instrument in an ensemble. Further data shows that currently 50% of East York 4th grade students and 75% of Indian Rock 4th grade students take instrumental instruction, for a total of 62% of 4th grade students. There is already a significant difference between the two elementary schools, both in participation levels and how the instruction is offered. At Indian Rock, students are pulled out of the class during the school day once per cycle for a 30-minute group lesson. Pullouts are at the discretion of the classroom teacher. Historically, a workable relationship between music and classroom teachers at Indian Rock has proven to be very successful. At East York, students are pulled out during lunch, recess, and when What I Need remedial time. This switch occurred in the 2011-2012 years. The proposed plan for 2018-19 stands in contrast to the current practice. It proposes the majority of instrumental instructions to take place before school. Any lesson taking place before the start of the student school day changes current 4th grade music curriculum. That component is cut from current curriculum and becomes extracurricular. In effect, a student grade will be affected by the family situation, whether a parent can or cannot arrange for transportation before school. This shift blurs the lines of wholly curricular and graded activity versus extracurricular activity.
Thank you.
My name is Nicole Seiberling, and I live at 1250 Southern Road. No consideration has been given to how many students will choose the before-school lesson option. Families were not surveyed to ascertain their ability or willingness to get their student to school early on the cycle schedule. The proposed 12-lesson block plan means group lessons would not occur on the same day each week, creating yet another before-school transportation issue. Student opportunities to participate in music is dependent on the family's ability to get their child to school before the regular school day. This will result in a number of children being denied this opportunity to participate based solely on whether or not their family can provide transportation. Consideration has also not been given to a number of other logistical concerns: monitoring of students who arrive before and after their assigned lesson time, the impact on breakfast students and their schedule, the practicality of this plan for faculty, students, and families in situations such as delayed school start, school cancellation, and special scheduling. The statement that no cuts to curriculum have been recommended is misleading. Any change that moves curricular content that occurs during the school day and places it before the start of a school day is a cut to the fourth grade curriculum, because that content then becomes extracurricular. Furthermore, serious consideration has not been given to the practicality of implementing this plan or the restrictions it puts on the families whose children choose to be involved in the instrumental music program in fourth grade.
My name's Scott Wagner. I live at 1312 South Ogon Street. I'd like to speak on the proposed reduction of music teachers from 7 to 6. Any further weakening of the music staff roster, including the elimination of the middle school band director, will create an unimaginable workload for one or more of the teachers, and that's already on top of a reduction enacted by the board and administration in 2007. In the past 11 years, according to data presented at the 2018 budget meeting, enrollment in our district has increased by 420 students. While additional classroom teaching positions have been created, no additional music teachers were hired compared to past staffing levels. Instead, continued eliminations and overburdening are proposed in music, above and beyond the additional enrollment and corresponding general music classes at now 4 elementary schools and middle school. 12 sections of kindergarten and additional music electives at the high school have been added without increasing the music department staff. This was offset in part by eliminating 6th grade orchestra sectionals at the middle school, rather than returning to the full staffing level of previous years. Years ago, 5th grade lessons and high school band sectionals were eliminated. Participation in music has been affected by staff reductions already. Since the last YS cut to the music department, when we went from 8 to 7 teachers, we've had a decline in the number of students qualifying for district chorus, band, orchestra, and jazz band. This is one way YS is represented in the community. If we're in a deficit now, how does cutting us back to where we were, let alone, help the program grow? Time outside of music teaching is an unavoidable issue. I'm referring to the aggregate 4 hours per day the music teachers spend traveling from building to building. This equates to 34 minutes per teacher. With the addition of Yorkshire, additional district enrollment and music courses, and fewer teachers, it is not surprising teachers spend time driving from one building to another. Obviously, unless you eliminate...
Thank you.
My name is Amy Myers. I live at 3111 East Market Street. Unless you eliminate all travel time, there is not 4 hours of music instructional time and corresponding staff time of savings to be realized. The music department staff and the administration should work together to develop a plan to ensure the best possible alignment of music teacher skills, courses, and student needs to reduce travel time. Besides travel time, there is 4.5 hours of non-instructional time per day, which equates to 38 minutes per music teacher when divided across 7 teachers. If you adjust this number for 6 teachers, the per-teacher non-instructional time will increase. This time is for coverage for bus duty, lunch, recess, study halls, etc. While it may help to shift these requirements from the music teachers to others, obviously these needed responsibilities will not go away. If you elect to shift them from music teachers to other staffs, it is, as the saying goes, robbing Peter to pay Paul, or just kicking the can down the road. Someone will do this work and need to be paid for doing so. To repeat, the administration and board are already asking fewer music teachers to teach more classes and serve more students in more buildings. They have already cut the number of group instrumental lessons and sectionals. The music department is already stretched thin. It is unrealistic to reduce the music department staff from 7 certified music teachers to 6, especially after having cut a position previously. The administration should maintain 7 full-time certified music instructors.
Stephanie Sullivan. I live at 331 Pine Hill Lane. Following up on the points related to the curricular feasibility of running the music department with 6 personnel, I wanted to talk about the reality of maintaining existing extracurriculars given the proposed staffing structure, both from a feasibility and impact position. At present, we're down to 2 directors running the high school and middle school band ensembles for a total of 3 curricular groups and 5 extracurricular groups. The middle school extracurricular groups meet immediately after school for an hour and a half to 2 hours. The high school groups meet as early as 6 p.m. and run an hour and a half to 2 hours. Of course, that's when the students arrive. The directors are there up to an hour early and stay until the last students are gone and everything is locked up for the evening. Any single director, no matter how dedicated and determined, would be on a path to burnout with that schedule, and it's simply not sustainable. Beyond that, community commitments of marching bands and jazz bands are often in conflict, with the high school and middle school groups performing at the same time in different parts of the county. It was pointed out that there is money in the budget for directors to run the extracurriculars. So from a semantic position, there are no proposed cuts. And we acknowledge that outsourcing is done for many of the extracurriculars, such as musicals and supporting positions within the music department. We've seen firsthand that this can be true on paper, but simply not play out in reality. For the past 2 years, the district has budgeted for a high school percussion director, but no suitable applicant has come forth. So for 2 years, we've not had an indoor percussion ensemble.
My name is Tammy Levin, and I live at 480 Hillcrest Road. Picking up on the impact of the outsourcing discussion highlighted by Mrs. Sullivan, over the past few weeks, we have reached out to 5 local districts that are best communities for music education in 2017, and most for several previous years as well. We see this as our peer group if we are serious about having a culture of excellence. In every one of these successful districts, there are multiple band directors covering the secondary groups, and every extracurricular director is a member of the district music staff. It was unanimously agreed in those discussions that outsourcing directors for extracurricular groups such as marching and jazz bands will undermine the integrity of the program, especially if outsourced to non-certified people. Continuity between curricular and extracurricular ensembles is critical and strengthens both groups. Everyone we spoke with touched on the point that in order to choose music and plan programs successfully for the extracurricular groups, the director must have a relationship with the students and be familiar with their talent levels and personalities. Timing is a specific concern related to outsourcing the high school marching band director. The planning for next year's field show needs to begin in the next few weeks, and rehearsals begin in mid to late May. An outsourced director, presumably hired at the July 1st fiscal year, would not have time to plan and execute a show for the coming fall season. Experienced professionals wouldn't apply that late. Inexperienced professionals wouldn't meet our outsourcing standards. Would this mean that marching band would go the way of our indoor percussion ensemble? The YS extracurricular music groups are the face of our district in the community. These groups successfully represent our districts at numerous public performances annually. We cannot ensure unity and community in these instrumental ensembles if they are not staffed by a member of the district music department.
Hi, I'm Danae Myers. I live at 515 Ardmore Lane. I am addressing the impact that the music program has on the social and mental well-being of YS students, in line with District Goal Number 2, which states, research the mental health needs of all students and develop and implement programs to address their needs. We recognize that music is not the only support outlet available at YS, but for many students, their participation in the various music ensembles, and especially extracurriculars, provides purpose and community. Anxiety and depression in teens and preteens is at an all-time high, and the suicide rate statistics for this age group are very troubling. For many students, especially those most likely to be on the social fringe, music is a large part of their identity and provides a safe social haven that may not exist anywhere else for them. It is a place where every single member of the group is important and contributes to the whole, and where they feel that they would be missed if they weren't there. With their permission, I would like to share a text sent to a friend by a YS student a few weeks ago. I apologize for the language, which I will bleep, but I did not want to edit the words, emotion, or truth of this message. I almost committed suicide last year. I was home alone, and I would be for a while, and I was really effing depressed. So I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and went to my dad's bathroom and was standing right in front of the pill cabinet. My hand was on the effing handle. I was holding an effing knife. I was so close to killing myself then, but then I thought, if I die now, I won't ever get to do marching band. I might get to do marching band next year. If I die now, I'll never get that experience. I'll never feel what it's like to be truly happy. So I didn't. I left the bathroom and put the knife back, and instead I got out my instrument and practiced my music as loud as I could. Opportunities in music are quite literally what many students live for. Please show them your support by ensuring the continuation of a strong music program at York Suburban. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Christy Atkinson, and I live at 1401 Old Farm Lane. When I spoke at the Academic and Standards Committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, I stated that the York Suburban would be setting the wrong precedent to surrounding districts in having only one secondary band instructor and outsourcing the directorship of some of the secondary ensembles. But I've since found that I was wrong about that. A few other districts have tried this, including Eastern and Gettysburg, with dismal results. In 2009, with a marching band comprised of 51 musicians, comparable to York Suburban's marching band this past fall, which had 46, the Eastern York School Board voted to split the high school band director and marching band director positions. The marching band immediately struggled, and continuity of directors was instantly lost. In just 4 years, from 2009 to 2013, Eastern's marching band went from 51 musicians to a low of 15 musicians. I actually have a picture of their entire band in 2013. If this administrative proposal is accepted, this will be the future of the York Suburban Marching Band. We have the opportunity to prevent this story from becoming our story. After public outcry from the community, the current high school band director, Keith Gromas, was hired to handle both all high school band curriculum and the marching band. Since 2013, Mr. Gromas has been working to try to rebuild the band, and for the 2017 marching band season, they were able to get back up to 50 musicians. It has taken Eastern almost a decade to repair the mistakes that were proposed at York Suburban.
Hi there, Stephanie Shull, 138 North Marshall Street. Continuing what Mrs. Atkinson said, robust music programming is culturally important to York Suburban District and critically important to the students it serves. For many, inclusion in music programming is the reason they get up in the morning and make it through the school day. The learning benefits it provides for the student musicians is evident by the exemplary academic achievement that consistently comes from those who are engaged in music. Strong music ensembles enrich our community and beyond and reflect positive light on our district. Are you willing to risk the degradation of our culture of excellence here at York Suburban with these supposed innocuous changes? We sincerely hope that a decision is made very soon to maintain 7 full-time music educators so that all current programming may be adequately staffed and sustained, and that the 4th grade instrumental curriculum will remain in the school day to preserve consistency in the learning process. We are committed and persistent to see this through. I speak for all of the 422 followers of the Friends of YS Music, as well as the current and future students that stand to be affected by your decision. I have printed versions of all of our speeches for this evening, as well as a direct rebuttal to Dr. Redding's district-wide email sent on February 3rd to take home for you to read at your convenience.
I'm Robert Ringillian from 2641 Raleigh Drive. I am a gray-haired homeowner interested in the resale value of my home. It's a major investment for me. And I want to know that I'm in an excellent school district which is not being taken off course by an administrative temp that the school board has hired in ways that might affect my home investment after he leaves, or affect the quality of my neighborhood, or even crime. I want you to keep the culture and excellence of the school district intact and assure me and any other homeowners that staffing levels in arts and music will stay at their previous level or even increase. I don't have anyone in the school anymore, but I remember moving to York Suburban based on the reputation and scope of programs in the school district. I suspect I'm not the only one in this room who thinks that school quality is important, but I don't know if anyone on this board is ahead of the curve on this issue and found the links between home values, perceived school system quality, and music and arts education as part of that. So I took a moment at breakfast this morning before my morning walk to do some quick research. I have 5 pages of research here with links if you wish to see, but I'll just summarize it. First, I looked at home flipper websites to see what they had to say. They're pretty clear. Anyone who has children knows that where children go to school is first and foremost in home buyers' mind. Even if in the end buyer doesn't have children, they'll still be concerned about the school district. Everyone down the line in ownership on the property will need to sell it at one point. If you find 2 comparable houses for the same district, you will want to look at the different districts. I'm going to summarize here that one of the major aspects of what I looked at was that music itself is listed as you go into an Ivy League school report on what it is the parents want and what gives the perception of quality in a school district. Please keep crime and our home values where they need to be. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bella Sodato. I'm from 138 North Marshall Street. I'm a junior and I've been involved in band at YS for 8 years. Throughout this time, I've participated in concert band, marching band, musical pit orchestra, indoor drumline, and a few other ensembles. I have also been inducted as a member of the Triumph Music Honor Society. Outside of York Suburban, I have also had the privilege of playing in the First Capital Indoor Drumline, PMEA District 7 Band, and the York County Honor Band. It is performance groups like these where our high school students are able to represent YS to diverse audience of people who may not watch our football games or swim meets. My experiences in both York Suburban and independent ensembles have been challenging, but have formed me into the person I am today. Through band, I've made lifelong friendships, I've become a leader, and I have made memories of high school that I will hold on to forever. Unlike a lot of my peers, I've had a unique experience in instrument learning, in that I have not taken consistent private lessons with a teacher outside of Suburban. Private lessons are hard to schedule time for and can often be very pricey. Therefore, I owe all of my knowledge, ability, and success to the amazing teachers I have had throughout my time at YS who have taught me playing technique and pushed me to work to become a better musician. If it weren't for my initial clarinet lessons given in 4th grade, I would not have given a chance to learn to play clarinet, and I would have missed out on the innumerable effects I have gained from learning to play an instrument. Growing up living with a single parent, I know that I would not have been able to go to these lessons if it took place outside of school hours, as my mom would not have been able to miss time at work for me to drive me to a clarinet lesson. My reliance on buses to transport me and to and from school was very similar to what a lot of other elementary kids are experiencing today. The movement of instrument lessons to a time before or after school would mean that very many students would miss out on the opportunity to ever take lessons, and they could consequently miss a chance to find their passion in music. Playing an instrument involves...
You could have finished.
I'm Jordan Abel, 455 Ardmore Lane. Playing an instrument improves a child's discipline, focus, brain development, confidence, and engagement in school. It is an opportunity that every young person deserves to have. Band at Suburban has pushed me out of my comfort zone, brought me closer to my best friends, helped me discover my love for playing music, and has allowed me to have unique experiences that I once could have only dreamed of. I'm extremely grateful for the music education I've received throughout my years at Suburban, and it is my hope that every single young student will have the same opportunity to experience what the music program has to offer. Additionally, the removal of a music teacher position at YS would put unimaginable amount of stress on our current teachers. Already stretched thin enough, they cannot be expected to take on bigger teaching role in YS while also upholding their positions as directors of out-of-school ensembles, including jazz band and marching band. I confidently predict that the removal of a position will inevitably lead to the removal of these ensembles in YS, ensembles that have completely shaped my high school career. When I was a freshman, I participated in our indoor drumline at YS, and it ended up being my favorite performance group I have participated in. Come my sophomore year, we were unable to find a director for our drumline to replace our previous director, and the program stopped there. While it may seem easy to find other directors to lead these extracurricular activities, there is an extreme lack of qualified candidates in York County, and marching band practices start in May, so time is very limited. While the removal of these programs may not affect me very much as I only have 1 year left at YS, it is completely unfair to potentially deprive future YSHS students of such amazing opportunities to get involved in the school. I'm not naive to the fact that sometimes hard decisions need to be made and our funding deficit undeniably needs to be addressed. However, I ask that you please consider the underlying effects that a change to the music program so seemingly small will actually ensue. I'm so grateful for the opportunities I have had through involvement at YS, and every student deserves the chance to get involved in such an amazing program.
Karen Clifford, 1901 Hollywood Parkway, proud graduate of Suburban so many years ago. We recently had to be acknowledged as a Blue Ribbon School District. To be a Blue Ribbon School District, you have to have certain criteria, and one of those is music. Having written one for my school district I teach at, I know how much emphasis they place on the whole child. And I think when you pursue the type of proposal we're hearing about, particularly in fourth grade, you're creating a situation of haves and have-nots. The haves have the parents who have a nice schedule that can drop their child off at school at any time. The have-nots, myself included as a teacher, cannot get their child to school before or after school. This is a dangerous precedent to take. I have a child who's a senior, so I really have no skin in the game on this point. But she has been a viola player since fourth grade, taking lessons during the day. The school district I teach at starts strings in third grade, and we currently have 100 string players, and I teach in a very poor school district, one step above York City. I hate to think that Suburban is going down a path that we would be regarded as a York City type school district by not offering programs to benefit the quality that we've been so proud of all these years. Kiara is a senior. She, as I said, a viola player. She got into Distinguished Young Women because of viola playing. She made districts because of viola playing, and she recently received college offers from Duquesne and Penn State University Park, not because of her academics, but because of her viola playing. And she would not have been able to achieve that, and you would not be proud of a student such as her graduating without the opportunities for having music at Suburban. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Todd Fogdahl. I live at 360 Tollgate Road. I am the president and CEO of the Appel Center for the Performing Arts, formerly the Strand Capital, and I have 2 students in the York Suburban District. I am unabashedly a product of public school music education. It's the reason I do what I do, and really the reason I do what I do, working at the Appel Center and working in performing arts organizations, is to help to create opportunities for young people and adults to experience the arts and to have those experiences themselves. And we at the Appel Center get to do that 75, 100 nights a year for these students, and with the teachers that they have a chance to work with, they're doing that, 200 days a year or more. And I think there's, little more that, as you've heard already, that can make a difference in the lives of these kids. We moved to the district in 2015. in summer of 2015 and came here to York Suburban because of the excellence of the education, but also the music programs that are offered. And I'll tell you, having new kids coming in as middle schoolers into the district, a difficult time in every kid's life, the opportunities that they've had, the friendships that they've been able to make have been fantastic. They are energized, they're excited to come to school, they're excited about the rest of their high school experience and having that be a centerpiece of that. And I ask for your help in making sure that that continues. Thank you.
My name is Christy Rengillian. I'm really short, and I live at 2641 Raleigh Drive. Those of you who know Bob Woods, I used to have to follow him, and he's about 6'5". When I first heard about this, I was pretty angry, and then I moved to trying to figure out what you were doing here. And for the life of me, as in the email I sent to you all a couple weeks ago, I can't figure this out. And the more people I talk to, the less this makes any sense. This wasn't asked by the board to solve a budget problem. We've learned that. And it's not solving a problem related to classroom instruction or test scores, because we know that at least for half the district, these kids aren't being pulled out of instruction time. We also know from countless research, which I can quote, but I don't have time. If you want the links, like Bob, I'll send them to you. But one, it talks about fourth grade students involved in pull-out instrumental lessons had statistically higher reading scores than their peers. So why are you picking a fight with a department that has a formal active parent group? Is this some circuitous plan to propose a cut in the music teacher is to gain a classroom teacher? I've been told by many people it's unlikely you thought this many steps ahead. Besides, Suburban's, one of our sacred cows, is small class size. If you need more teachers to remain within board-approved class size ranges, it's very likely that the board and community will support you, even if that means raising taxes. So this is what I've come up with. Administrators, you have lost sight of your goal and your job. You don't know what your purpose is. Despite popular belief and admittedly a tremendous amount of misguided community pressure, your job is to educate students, not to maintain or increase test scores. We have fight this conversation over and over, and I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going for a second. And after all these years of all of us standing up here fighting for foreign language and music and the arts and courses that challenge our kids, and the research that talks about how this benefits our kids, you are still sitting here wanting to cut music. So I've begun to realize that I say that you don't think you're no longer focused on education, you're focused on test scores, and that's a mistake. It makes me delusioned, and it makes me sad. Music education is education. It's not a pullout, it's not an add-on, it's not a fluff for the rich kids or those that already have high test scores. It's a critical, vital component of the curriculum. You have already taken a hatchet to the music education program over the past decade or so. You've eliminated staff, you've eliminated high school sectionals. Then you have the audacity to be surprised and dismayed that participation in the secondary music program is declining, as if you can't figure out how cutting a program's very foundation leads to its decline. Is the administration really asking the board to deliver another blow to the music education department, and for the misguided delusion that it will result in higher test scores, or for some other unknown and equally misguided reason? Hyperbole? Maybe. We'll figure out and we'll know what you decide to do tonight, because a couple of years it will rear its ugly head in lower test scores.
Okay, thank you. Oh, one more? Come on.
Angel Hepner, 1028 Hill Street. I have
a sixth grader now. He played in fourth grade. He played saxophone. He decided he wanted to change instruments. His band director said that was fine. We don't have fifth grade sectionals. He is not a super outgoing kid. He wanted to do something new and did not have that instructional level at the very base. Pulling that from our fourth graders is going to, again, decrease our kids' ability to play. Can they get there? But also, can they learn? How can you give a student a new instrument and have them show up at band and think they're going to want to play and not feel overwhelmed or afraid or embarrassed when you don't have the teacher core at the very part where they're teaching them how to play that instrument, what the parts are, what the notes are? They need that instructional period in fifth grade. They need it in fourth grade. Trying to move it to before school, you're going to lose children. But also, that's teacher time. Those teachers need that time. They don't just show up with a stick and the kids play. They need time to prepare, to be ready for our students to get there. This is not going to do our district any service to take away from a music group that needs more teachers. They need teachers that can be in the building more versus driving around. Taking one away is just going to increase that stretch on them. So I hope you'll consider keeping our music group strong. It's important to us. It's important to the families. It's important to the kids. It's part of why we stayed in York Suburban. I just bought a house on surprise. And where did I look? I looked in Suburban because this is where we've been going. And this is where we want to be, partially because I have a very, very strong programs, a lot of them in music. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'd like to say that there is nothing on the board agenda or no planning toward cutting the music program or doing anything tonight about the music program. The administration is looking across the entire school district to make sure that it's run in the best possible way that it can. There's no hatchets out. There's no predisposed idea of this happening. So just, I guess that's all I could say tonight. That there's no plan to vote on anything or do anything about it. So, thank you. Yes. There is no proposal. No, there.
That's a lie.
I have a.
Dr. Redding has a proposal out there. He talked with the teachers. They gave him a counter proposal. This is the lie.
Well, I will not argue with you. What I know is that Dr. Redding is looking at options, and he did come up with some scenarios.
Working with options with the right people. Not a dictatorship.
Well, it's not Dr. Redding. It's Dr. Redding with the school administrators, I believe. So
again,
so that's all I can say.
You're involved. You need to have your eyes open to what is going on in this district.
Okay. Thank you. Are we staying or are we leaving? Okay, all right. So we can we come forward a little so we can put the screen back down then?
Oh, okay.
All right, last chance to leave.
Not really. You can go whenever you want to go. All right, let's get this show on the road.
All right. All right, a committee of the board met with representatives of the York Suburban Education Association on January 30th, 2018, and at 6:30 p.m. in executive session for a fireside chat as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act for the purpose of discussing personnel matters. No official action was taken. Also, the negotiation committee of the board met with the YSESPA and administrative representatives on January 31st at 5 p.m. for contract discussions. And the board met prior to this meeting this evening in executive session as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act for the purpose of discussing personnel and student matters. No official action was taken. In terms of search for a new superintendent, we've been running sessions around the district. I think there is one scheduled for tomorrow night that's a makeup session, and there was one more after that, and we will have all the community sessions done, and the process is moving forward. We've gotten, I would say, a significant number of responses, so stay tuned. Yes?
Just one question. On the fireside chat, are we going to continue with what we have historically done by rotating board members, various board members going to the fireside?
We certainly can, yes.
I thought that was kind of a good idea. If we could, I don't know where we finished or started, but just start a list and kind of include them in, a couple of board members. Okay, thank you.
Administrative report, Ms. Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Posnell. The administration recommends board approval of the immediate expulsion of student ID number 35677353349 as set forth in the administrative disciplinary hearing agreement following a hearing conducted by board-appointed hearing officer Larry R. Redding, acting superintendent. The student will be placed at an alternative school for a period of not less than one full school year.
Second. Can we do a short roll call vote on this?
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The next item, I'd like to call Mrs. Natalie Hossenfuss for a presentation on our intermediate level autistic support program.
Hi. Here to talk about, I brought a proposal, I think it was November, about the autistic support program at the level 3-5 grade level. So I'm here to just give a little more information, answer any other questions you might have. So, a historic view of autism support in York Suburban. York Suburban has for many years hosted Fair Share classrooms. Fair Share classrooms, if you remember, are classrooms run by the intermediate unit that support, educate students from York Suburban or surrounding districts, whoever is in need of that programming. So we could have in our Fair Share classrooms students from other districts, Spring Grove, West York, Dallastown. Some of our students could be in Fair Share classrooms in other districts. So that's just definition quick there, Fair Share classrooms. In 2016-17, and Wendy, if you click on the numbers, the administration started to notice a rise in the number of York Suburban students in need of autistic support programming, and we started to have conversations about bringing that autistic support back into under district control. This is just kind of, if you look at the numbers, how they've increased from 2013, and I'm off the screen there on the other side, to 2018-19, which would be the projection for next year. So back in 2013-14, we had 2 students in the K2 and 1 student in the 3-5 range. Projected for next year, in the K2 there are 12, and actually I think the numbers were a little different when I came back in November. That's how quickly they can change. This afternoon I got notification of another preschooler who will be registering for kindergarten in need of autistic support, so that number is now 13. And for the first time, as if you look at the numbers in the bottom there, third to fifth grade, we're now at a total of 7 for next year, projected number of 7 students in need of autistic support programming. So when we started having conversations about bringing the autistic support program back into district, under district control, my understanding, my thought was, in the conversations I had with the previous administration, was that as those students aged up into the older classrooms and we reached a level where it was a full classroom, if you remember, a full classroom for autistic support is 8 students. When we reached that level or close to that level, we would discuss then bringing back that classroom. And if you notice, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, we're 1 student short of as many students as can be in the classroom. So that's the thought historically and how we kind of got to coming back under district control. So if we go back to the... So this school year, for the first time, we did bring back a K-2 classroom, a K-2 autistic support classroom. It is housed over at Valley View Elementary. This year, the students in grades 3 to 5 are still in a fair share classroom, but it is in our district. It is at Indian Rock Elementary School. Had said just a minute ago that the caseload size for autistic support is 8 full-time students, and that's according to the Pennsylvania School Code. That's not a number the district has set. That's state code. In the 2018-19 school year, as you saw in the previous chart, we have 7 students in need of autistic support programming in the grades 3 to 5. Probably didn't miss that if I have 13 K-2 students, that's more than a class. So, and then also what are we looking at to do with the K-2 students? I actually have enough for 2 classes at this point in time. We had reviewed costs when we first brought this to you back in November, and as you look at the cost of the IU sets are based on how many students they have in the program, how many seats are filled in the classroom, and for this year it's about $36,648. So if I look at the number of students placed in 3rd through 5th grade, that's what the number of students are. For 18-19, those 7 students would cost the district $256,536 to keep them in fair share classrooms. Okay. If you look at the cost of bringing that fair share classroom back into district, it's broken down there, teachers, paraprofessionals, speech services, so on and so forth. The 2, curriculum and furniture, are not recurring costs, so they would be a cost to set up the classroom, but then would not be recurring in future years. But the total for that is $250,806, which is about the same cost, a little bit less, than putting the students into fair share classrooms. Why do we feel that it's important to bring the students back into district-run autistic support? The students are part of the York suburban community then. Right now, if we don't have the program, students are placed in fair share classrooms, which may or may not be in district. I do have 2 students in Red Lion in autistic support. I've got students in Dover in autistic support. Those students then, as they age up, supervisor at the intermediate unit absolutely tries to get them back into district, but there has to be an opening in the class. So if the 3-5 fair share classroom next year, nobody leaves, if it's full, if there's 8 students now and nobody ages up, nobody moves out, then the 2nd graders who are currently in district-run program would be put into a fair share classroom as close to York Suburban as we can get it, but there is no guarantee that it will be Indian Rock. It's fair share classroom. Another advantage benefit is opportunities for increased inclusion in the general education classrooms as the students are ready. When I'm done talking here, I'm going to bring Missy Skinsky up, who is the classroom teacher in our K-2 autistic support classroom. She was here as the LIU Fair Share teacher for 13 years, and now is hired by district in the district-run classroom, so she can talk a little bit more about what that inclusion looks like at Valley View. Cost is consistent as students are added to an existing district classroom. If what happens in the IU is they charge per number of students in the classroom. They have to pay their teachers and they have to pay their paraprofessionals. So if the classroom is not full and there's only 4 students in that classroom, then it costs a little more for us to put the students there. If there are 8 students, if it's a full classroom, it costs a little less. That inconsistency is, we've hired the teacher, we've hired the paraprofessionals, that's what it will cost me for that year to run that classroom. So a little bit of consistency there with cost. I already talked about the placement in fair share classrooms, with them trying to keep them as close to district as possible, in district fair share classrooms if possible. But again, if there are no available seats in those classrooms, then the IU has no choice but to place them somewhere else. Going to bring Missy Skimsky up to talk kind of about the intangible. She has a comparison. What was it like to be a fair share classroom teacher versus district run?
Hi, I'm Missy Skimsky, and I teach the autistic support class at Valley View. I have been there since, I think, 2005. I actually opened that classroom there. I can remember actually meeting Dr. Ketterin. So when Natalie asked me to kind of compare and contrast the difference between a district-supported and LIU fair share, honestly, it's a little bittersweet. I absolutely loved working at the IU. I loved what I did. I loved the people I worked with. But at the same time, I knew for my students, it's a better move. My students with the district get a better sense of community. You heard Natalie talk about fair share, and they have the opportunity to stay with their friends in their home school district. And I've seen that time and time again, where about this time every year I sit down with parents and they'll say, well, where's my child going for 3rd grade? I don't know. And that's kind of heartbreaking. You've seen them for 3 years make friends, make connections with faculty, and to not know if they can stay in York Suburban or if they might go to Northeastern or Dover, it's upsetting to families. So that was one of my biggest motivations for coming here, was to kind of bring that sense of community for my students. Since the start of the school year, I noticed a change. And it's things like Natalie said, you can't really measure, but it's things I just observe. And it's things like we've had 100% participation in fall conferences this year, where parents have come in to meet with me about their students' progress. I have never had that. Quite honestly, I've had years where I've had no parents come in. We've had students participate in building fundraisers. An example might be box tops we had in the fall. Our classroom actually contributed the most box tops per student, which is awesome. So they were included in that. Another example, we have right now a kindness campaign going on. We actually have half of our classes already participated and sent things in to be posted within the school community. Students wear their Valley View shirts. It's the small things, and it seems so silly to think about, but for me that signals that our parents are finally feeling connected. They're truly York Suburban residents, and their students are true York Suburban students. They're not a West York resident who gets bused to York Suburban. They are truly invested in their child's school and their education. We have parents who sign up for PTO. Never had that. And they actually come. They'll come and they'll participate in, the box top celebration. And to have that for our families who, quite honestly, are often excluded just because of the nature of the disability. Autism greatly impacts communication. It impacts social skills. Friendships are really hard for our kiddos. So it's one of those things where if we can make that a little easier, that's motivating for me to stand up here today. Some of the things you might not be able to see is my students now have the opportunity to participate in specials. Related arts are now available to all of my students. I have some students who really struggle with behavior. They have truly been told by other teachers that they're not teachable. So the goal for me is to get them to trust their teachers. My goal for that family is to feel that their teachers actually care about their children, that they're meaningful to their school and their community. So just the fact that my students can go to Related Arts and they can meet 5 different teachers in a week, that's huge. They learn to respond to 5 different adults and their instructional styles. For me, that just expands their skills. It generalizes their skills to maybe make them a little more productive as they go through their school career. So for my students, I think those are the biggest things. For the staff and my colleagues, I think we've been a huge asset this year. we've had the benefit and the opportunity to consult with about 6 different students who might be struggling behaviorally or academically this school year, not just at Valley View, but across the district. We've provided observations, behavior summaries, consultations. Some students we've actually programmed academically for because they weren't making progress in the general education setting. We've provided staff trainings, those kind of things. Our expertise in autism is very much behavior heavy, and given that's a focus of the district, I think we've been seen as an asset in a lot of settings. So we've provided building aid trainings, just things to kind of get discussions happening. How do we support all students? Because our demographic is changing somewhat. So I see bringing autistic support back to the district as a huge asset, not only for my students, but going forward with some district goals. So like I said, the biggest thing for me, I think, is making sure my kids have friends. And I think school's always going to be hard for them, but if I can make friendships more of a consistency in their life, and I can sit across from that parent in 3 weeks at March conferences and say, your child's going to Indian Rock, and I can guarantee that. That's such a burden lifted off of our families, who quite frankly have enough on their plate, and I'm so happy and proud to be able to do that. So just like the opportunity to kind of continue to bring the great programming that we started at the LIU to York Suburban. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So just, the final slide is just that the administrative recommendation is implementation of an autistic support program at the intermediate level, grades 3-5, located at Indian Rock, starting in August of 2018.
Questions?
Remind me again, if we implement this program and the child is not working out with the teacher, are they able to re-enter the Fair Share program?
I certainly could reach out to Brenda. Brenda is the supervisor. I'm sure she would absolutely consider that. I'm going to let you talk. Part of it is teaching the child how to get past that inability to interact.
And that's something, in the autistic programs, we're highly trained in how to get children to, they like you, but like you. We're very trained in getting them to enjoy instruction and to find it enjoyable, not aversive. I do know, just speaking to that, other school districts have also, contracted with the LIU if situations warrant that, and then they do go back. We experienced that when I was there. Districts who run their own district-supported classrooms do have some students.
And in conversations with the supervisor, if we would have another move-in K2 right now, Missy's classroom is full. She can't hold another student. They would accept that student into a Fair Share classroom.
I have a question, and if you could follow along with me, it's sort of based on a hypothetical here. So we've got a classroom that can fit 8, K through 2. Proposing a classroom that can fit 8, 3 through 5. Say there are 2 students in 5th grade moving out of this 8-seat classroom, and there's 4 currently in 2nd grade trying to move in. You can only bring 2 in. What happens to the other 2? Who determines the 2 that come in?
Heard.
Okay.
and that's my struggle with the K2 classroom right now. If we don't have a second classroom, who decides which of those 13, which of those 5 aren't going to be in district? So valid question. Bringing the program back, I know how many students are in York Suburban right now in grades 3-5. I know 1 is moving up to 6th grade. So I know exactly how many students will remain there from York Suburban, and I know exactly how many she has moving up. So unless someone would move in, we would have 1 additional space. But if they move in once school year is started and we're full, that's when I would have to reach out to the IU and say, I need a placement for this child. Where can we look?
What happens when they are in that 2nd grade class and only 2 seats are open? In our 3rd grade class, 2 of those children of the 4 are going to have to go elsewhere. If you're rolling 2 students out of 5th grade, and again, this is a hypothetical, if you're rolling 2 students out of 5th grade and 2 are going to be moving from 2nd into 3rd, or 4 are going to be moving from 2nd into 3rd, you only have space in this one classroom for 2 of them. What happens to the other 2, and who determines who those 2 are?
Okay, so hypothetical, that's not happening this year, but in
It
next
can,
year. But
correct.
next year, what if that happens? Then am I back asking, do we need another 3-5 classroom? Like I'm asking, do we need another K2 classroom? And what's the tipping point?
That is happening this year, or this coming year, in
For K2. So what's the tipping point?
So it's add another class, but what if the other class is not added? Again, who determines which of the 2 of the 4 come into the district-run 3rd grade class versus the 2 that are going to have to unfortunately leave a district-run class and go back to an LIU class? Is there a way to determine or identify who those children would be?
I haven't thought that through completely. I would say it is a discussion of the IEP team, that these students maybe have more needs, higher needs students. A lot of the autistic support classrooms are run at a center-based, at York Learning Center. So students with higher needs might be the ones who might need more center-based. They aren't able to go out for related arts. They aren't able to be included in calendar time, whatever they call that morning session. That maybe those are the students, but I would say that's an IEP team decision of who gets placed where.
Natalie, who has decided that 8 is the max?
The state, that's Pennsylvania School Code.
That's law.
Yeah.
So we can't
can't
get an 8 and have
No.
9 or 10. So that's, I needed to know that.
Correct.
Other?
I'm really concerned, I would really be curious, another hypothetical, to know, and this is really a stretch, to know what an IU instructor would say to try to defend the status quo. In other words, tell us the benefits that the IU brings by providing fair share instruction. Tell us what kinds of enrichments are available to kids from suburban who might attend a fair share class at Redline, for example, or a fair share class in Central.
Yeah, like I said, I loved working for the IU. The skills I got, I truly got from them. I can tell you the biggest differences I've noted are, and when I say there's less support, that's not what I mean. I mean there's less people in my classroom. So that means there's no psychologist, whereas the LIU Fair Share has a psychologist assigned to a classroom. Sorry. Who visits the classroom maybe bi-weekly. Aside from that, the wealth of the IU resources I think we still have as a district if we were to request that. But as an IU teacher in that position every day, that's probably the biggest thing I notice is there's just no psychologist. Natalie has served as my instructional advisor, which I would have had through the LIU. And something I shared with her this morning is I've been with the IU a really long time. When I started in the autistic support program, we had 9 classrooms. And when I say I still talk about it like we, the LIU had 9 classrooms. I can remember a time when we had 13 classrooms and we had a supervisor and 2 instructional advisors. And those are people who would go into the classroom and support the teacher and the assistants with instruction or any difficulties they were having. Now with 40, I believe about 40 classrooms in the autistic support program for the LIU, they still have 1 supervisor and 2 instructional advisors. So for me, the instructional advisor was there. I might have seen her once a month, but again, it's no fault of the IU. I think that's, again, just numbers and dealing with budgetary constraints. So we do participate as a district-supported classroom in the Autism Initiative for the state of Pennsylvania, as I did as an LIU Fair Share. So that means I have state consultants in my classroom at least once a month for half days or full days to offer instructional support. And we have the full resources of the Department of Education and that initiative. So as far as in the classroom and in the trenches every day, I really don't notice a huge difference. I do know the IU's there if I need them to reach out, that we can call and say we're really struggling, please come help, kind of as I would as a classroom teacher. I know I have my patent and state consultants who come in, and if I request, they'll be there. So I really don't feel lacking in any support service that I had before. I see the true benefit for my students, very much so.
And again, if you go to 13, if you have 13 this year, okay, which justifies 2 classrooms. Now, let's say we go back down to 4 or 5 kids for the next 2 to 3 years. What do we do with the extra teacher?
Yeah, I like that answer.
Could we bring in Red Lion students? Or?
We could, districts are having some of those conversations about sharing students across districts instead of through the IU.
So we'd be competing with the IU.
Potentially autism is on such a rise. I hope that happens. I hope we go down to that few students. I don't see it coming. And for that reason, many of our surrounding districts are bringing back their autistic support classrooms, so those options, those seats might be available. Springbrook Grove has taken back K-12 in one fell swoop. They're doing it all next year. And have reached out if you have someone you need to place.
Along a similar vein, should something wonderful happen and we not have this large number, and we have the extra teacher, their certifications would allow them, would it not, to teach another.
Correct. Missy's certification is just special education. It is not autism.
Right.
It is special education, so she can teach. Do you also have a gen ed degree? I believe now most students coming out in special ed have to be dual certified. They have to have a general education certificate as well as.
So elementary certified.
Correct.
K-6.
Correct. Or
I just wanted to point, I thought that was the case. I just wanted to make that statement that it's not as if we're going to have these extra teachers on our staff and no students to teach. They can teach other things.
Correct.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This item will be on the voting meeting then, because if we do plan on bringing this in district, we do have to notify the IU in March.
One thing about her presentation, I don't know if she gave us additional information. We don't have a link to that program, to her presentation, so it might be helpful if we got it.
Wendy will be putting
Okay.
the link on the agenda after the meeting.
Yep, thank you.
Ellen?
Dr. Ketterman, Federal Monitoring.
Yes, thank you. This is just really to, for your information, to make you aware that this year we are being monitored. Our federal programs are being monitored, which basically is like an audit, if you will. The whole purpose of the audit is it gives the school an opportunity to demonstrate that their programs are in compliance with federal law. So this would be Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. It happens basically every 3 years. We were in line for monitoring last year, and for some reason that didn't happen. I guess probably they had the premonition that I would be in this position next year and just wanted to learn about it. So it is happening this year. We're waiting for it to actually be given the date when the monitoring will happen. We're supposed to hear sometime mid-February when it will actually happen. So right now I'm just in the process of gathering all kinds of data and evidences that they require. There's an online self-assessment, if you will, that we need to go through first to submit to them before the actual monitors come to us. So the monitoring will probably be somewhere in March through May. So again, I just really wanted the board to be aware that that will be happening here in the next few months, and I'll give you an update once that's complete. Thank you. I believe it's just 1 to 2 days, correct?
Correct,
Yeah.
because we're in for a district will be monitored or audited district, and then also they will spend some time in York.
Right.
Is there a reason it's East York as opposed to another building, or that just was
Just
random?
because it has the highest percentage.
Aha.
Yes, that's. Thank you.
Thank you. Tonight we have a presentation from Dr. Krauser.
Good evening. Scott Krauser, principal of the middle school. Certainly I know I love to talk about the middle school, but I'll spare you the time. I thought I'd share a little bit of theme for the middle school this month, and you know, with the middle school, it's that transition time. We've got all our young adults transitioning, trying to find identities and personalities. February is an exciting month because it's really student-driven. So I thought I'd share a few items that have been occurring the last couple of weeks that really just shows the nature of super highly motivated middle school students. And one of the first things that we just wrapped up this past weekend is our Bowl for Kids Sake activity. We work in concert with Big Brothers Big Sisters. The students generate teams. They work together to kind of raise money for Big Brothers Big Sisters. We have that in conjunction with a school dance and a bowling-a-thon, and kids raise money, all in an effort to support our Big Brothers Big Sisters program. It's been a program we've been doing for well over a decade with great success. It's great to see the students involved, but it's student-driven. So the kids are the motivators behind it. It's a great opportunity for us to outreach with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and inevitably, as you know, it goes for a great cause. So that's one certainly thing that we'd like to share about the excitement of February. And with February and the month of kindness and giving, Student Council also does a great deal this month with beginning to take some of that leadership role, certainly with our dance that they coordinate with Bowl for Kids Sake. But this week in particular, we're reaching out and sharing flowers with friends, encouraging one another to be kind and be respectful. And that's another celebration at the middle school that we like to bring attention to. And another item that's occurring this month is all about teams. We'll have one of our team days this coming Thursday. It's a great opportunity for each grade level to kind of focus on characteristics of character and strength. This coming Thursday, 7th grade, for example, is bringing in some guest presenters to talk about local outreach, careers, community events. Our 8th grade will be fortunate enough to meet with Dr. Ellis as he begins to come down and give the high school talk. We're beginning the scheduling process with our 8th graders, so it's a kind of great step in that direction. And 6th graders just got back from their BizTown adventure. BizTown's an outstanding opportunity for them to develop those career standards, so they'll have some activities this coming Thursday to kind of celebrate and reinforce the skills that they've done. So that's just a little bit that's going on in the middle school this month, lots to share, but it is that great time when students are generating that idea of how do they find their own identity, their own personality, and many of you who've been involved with the BizTown interviews and that process, it's a great experience for those 6th graders, and they kind of culminated that last week. And they're doing this all with modified schedules and some changes with weather and some rescheduling, and just shows the resiliency of our middle schoolers. So it's been a great opportunity and a quick, brief example of what's going on in the middle school. Certainly love to share it. Thank you. I'll turn it over to the guy with the great barber as well.
Dr. Monas.
Todd Monas, principal of Valley View Elementary School. Before I comment on happenings at Valley View, I would like to comment on the autistic support classroom in our school. It's one of those things where it's people over program. Mrs. Gimsky doesn't do herself justice in bragging about herself, but she is a phenomenal professional. She joins us at faculty meetings. She joins me for new teacher induction meetings, and I find the colleagueship just very give and take. I've learned so much from her in the realm of behavior. She's a great asset to what is now a district program. Crystal Gerner was actually in the doorway. She's a paraprofessional in that room and made time in her schedule to come out tonight just to be a part of the presentation because, again, highly invested individuals in a York Suburban program. So they're a tremendous value to our school. I love joining their classroom. They talked about joining specials. Mrs. Hassenfuss is also down with those kids frequently, and I would certainly offer you the opportunity to come in anytime to the classroom and join, because there are great things going on in that room on a daily basis. For February at Valley View, we are focused on acts of kindness. We started the month with an assembly where we sort of kicked off kindness and presented it in a way that, yes, we want to recognize kindness, but we wanted to also look at just those unintentional acts and making sure that you're doing it not for a reward, but just because it's the right thing to do. We have friendship parties coming up this week in all 3 grade levels. Each student received a stack of hearts to take home, to share with families, so that if there's acts of kindness within the home, we're sort of bridging that gap, school to home. Each teacher has a stack of hearts, and any student that receives one brings it down to the lobby, and you can see a big heart display in our lobby, along with all of the gotcha bees for people getting caught being good in Valley View. So it's sunshines and rainbows at Valley View all the time, but this month we are focusing on kindness.
Thank you. All right, we're switching hats. Now we're going to hear from the business office, Ms. Mason.
Thank you. The first two items recommended for approval, I apologize if these did not make it through to the voting meeting. We got them after the January voting meeting, and they have to both be approved before our February voting meeting. That's why they're on here this evening. The first one is about the administration recommends board approval of the WAN agreement with Lincoln Learning Network at a cost of $340 per month for an internet subscription of 400 Mbps.
Megabits per second.
All right, so I was better off doing it that way.
So moved.
Questions?
Just so you know, this is increasing our bandwidth by 50. We were at 350, paying $50 or $10 more, so we were paying $350 for 350, and now we're going up to 400 and paying $340. So it's a bargain for us.
And that's because the contract's with the Learning Network.
Correct.
Okay.
Short.
Yeah.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The next item, the administration recommends board approval of the contract with FMP Productions for a total amount of $3,000 for music and audio at the York Suburban Minithon 2018 to be held Friday, February 28th, starting at 9 p.m. and ending no later than Saturday, February 24th at 7 a.m.
Second.
Right, this is an expense to the student activity, it's not to the operating account, correct? This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, the next items will be recommended for approval on February 26th. The first one is for the York Adams Academy 2018-19 general operating budget. The increase to the district will be it's $100 a seat, our total increase of $1,200. In total, that takes us at a cost of $49,200, which we're paying this year, to next year a cost of $50,400. The next item, the administration recommends board approval of the proposed Lincoln Intermediate Unit 2018-19 general operating budget. This budget represents a total budget reduction of $200,000. To us, that will be a decrease of $8,634. So we're going from this year's payment of $32,288 down to $23,654. The next item will be actually an agreement that the board already approved in August based on recommendations that we were given. We now have to reapprove that agreement as a 5-year agreement, the agreement itself being 5 years, not just an annual agreement. So that will be an agreement that you already saw, already approved. We're just going to bring it back. It's for the non-pub set-aside piece that the district, there's a amount every year when our allocation is given, then it's determined what percentage is non-pub allocated.
Can we post that on the private area for the people that weren't here in August?
Absolutely. The administration will also be recommending the board approve a 2-year agreement with Substitute Teacher Service, or STS as you commonly hear it called, beginning July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2020. This agreement is for a per diem substitute teacher days at a district bill rate of $145.20 per substitute teacher day. This service will assume all of the duties the district currently handles for substitute teachers. So that's everything from interviewing, getting all the paperwork with them, the clearances, making the phone calls, so the district will no longer be making the phone calls. It's everything that the district did for subs. The other thing it would also do now is it will also allow retired teachers that want to sub. They will now be able to do that because they won't have to go through PCERS. Now they'll be going through a contractor. This should, from a monetary standpoint, it saves us close to $10,000 a year. If you add that human resource component to it, it's probably close to $50,000 a year.
Is there some of this that formally approves when someone comes in, teacher goes in and says, I need a substitute today? Who approves that? SDS doesn't do that. Do you have anybody that says, yes, that's a bona fide sub day, or we don't have to do that, or I'm taking a personal day?
I'm not Dr. Ketterman, I'm not entirely understanding the question, and maybe it's because...
But yeah, at the building level, principals approve.
Principals approve it, that's what I'm looking for, because, somebody wakes up at 3 in the morning and either they are definitely or their child is, and they decide to put this in, somebody has to approve.
Right, I mean, in that case, the job would go out, prior to approval. It doesn't wait for approval to go out.
Oh, it does not. But at some point.
But it is approved.
It is approved at some point, so you have to assume that, okay, I mean, which is, obviously you can't not unapprove it then, later in the day, if you don't think it was a justifiable reason for taking it.
Well, you might change the reason, maybe it wasn't legitimate sick day, maybe it should have to be taken as a personal day or an emergency day or something like that, that you can go back and change, but first and foremost, we need to get, someone, in front of the kid,
Just to clarify, this is all done online. It's no longer the phone call. It's all done online. I just wanted to clarify that.
But you still get a call from SDS starting at 5:30 in the morning.
No, I'm talking about from the teacher standpoint. It's all done online. It's no longer a phone call. Just clarifying.
Well, no, this is based on the daily rate being $110. Yes, because the county, it was just, I'm going to say a county-wide decision because the superintendents agreed on it. They will for next year. Well, they've been at 100.
Isn't the hope with not all substitutes, but isn't the hope for the substitutes to actually continue to get experience until they can land a teaching job? Well, true, but...
Don't do it. Look at who's coming in.
Mm-hmm. The next one, the administration recommends board approval for John Olweiler Jr. to be exempt from paying real estate taxes for the property located at 2590 Hartford Road in York, as approved by the Pennsylvania State Veterans Commission. This would take effect for the 18-19 fiscal year. For the new board members, the applicant has to go through a process with the state and with the Veterans, Commission. And, the applicant has to be determined, they're financially in need, and that to be eligible for the program. Plus, it has also been verified that this applicant is totally and permanently disabled as a result of their service to the country. The administration recommends board approval of the bid for new band uniforms to Stanberry Uniforms in the amount of $32,500 for 65 uniforms. This need is based on a 5-year average of 49 students over the last 5 years, and there was an average of 47 students over the last 3 years.
You're saying the lifetime expectation is 5 years?
No, of the uniforms, it's 15. Yeah. But the issue is once we get the uniforms, it's one of those things where you can't just, if you get an extra 5 or 10 kids, you can't call the uniform place and say, oh, by the way, now we need 10 extra uniforms. So there is an extra allotted in there. It's in this year's budget.
Why wouldn't you be able to get replacement uniforms?
Band uniforms aren't made that way. Dye lot, sizing.
Pretty much any uniform, that's going to be the case, I would think. Go figure. Oh, go figure. You mean the new guys coming in could have the same uniform as the old guys?
What they did was, when the new ones were introduced, the old ones were not thrown out.
Oh.
The colors were pretty consistent, even with that different discussion.
We're being optimistic. I mean,
Could we roll the clock back one item here? I see
Yeah.
a question on transportation. How many others do we have in the program now?
Since I've been here, I believe this is our 3rd one. And every 5 years, that's reevaluated by the commission. I've yet to see any that have been overturned or say that they're no longer, eligible.
I missed it. How many, we're ordering 65 uniforms?
Correct.
The current need for how many?
47.
47.
But the 47 also includes the color guard, right?
My understanding.
I think it does.
Yeah, 60.
I think it does. I think 47's with guard.
No.
No?
No. Guard doesn't wear uniforms. They have their own uniforms.
Yeah.
47. So we're sure of the 65? I mean, of the 47?
Yeah.
That's band uniforms?
Yes. Yes. I was getting that from Mr. Hustler and Dr. Ellis. Item 7 has to do with the board authorizing the Information Technology Department to make purchases up to $125,000 for equipment, software services, or subscriptions subject to the following. I'm not going to read all of the bullets, but essentially this is Attorney Say and I started this process actually last spring, and it kept getting pushed aside for one reason or another, and we finally circled back around to get it on the agenda. This is, in essence, this is on here because as we work through the budget process, technology's timing is kind of different than the way the rest of the budget operates. A lot of their purchasing is actually done April, May, and June to get ready for the next year. And his stuff has already been approved in the budget the prior year. So he's still doing his purchasing in April, May, and June out of the current year's budget, not the next budget. And all of that stuff has been approved when the budget was adopted. So that's why, and if you remember last year, we were scrambling in April and May to get a lot of contracts on the agenda to do purchases. We had to put another co-op on there to get them approved so that because he found another co-op to use to get our computers purchased at a more reasonable price. So this is on here to eliminate that. Again, with the caveat being 125,000 is the limit. If he goes over that, it naturally has to come to the board. But essentially, the board is already approving his purchases when they approve the budget. So this is just another layer, if you will, to be able to let him to purchase in a timely fashion for him and not have to come to the board and say, I need this co-op, I need this. You're essentially saying, okay, we realize it was in your budget and that, yes, we approve the purchase under these guidelines and these bullet points.
So the wording here would indicate that there's a list of the items that we've approved, an itemized list, not I've given you $125,000 to spend on, generically equipment, educational software, services, or subscriptions. But we as a board don't approve that list. So if you're going to make this statement, and we're going to make this, well then there better be an itemized list attached to our budget this year when we approve it. Because otherwise we're not doing this.
Do you want and I'm asking the will of the board, do you want an itemized list or would you prefer a presentation by Mr. Henry? I can do either.
This implies that I have an itemized list.
Oh, but I
don't
think
care about the costs associated with those items, but you're saying $125,000 for, and I would say the list should say 100 computers and 25 projectors and 6 network switches. And if we happen to get those items for less than $125,000, then we just saved money. We didn't then get more stuff because we didn't hit $125,000.
This could be multiple purchases. It says for purchases. I mean, there could
I'm
be.
just saying it's implying that all this language is implying that there is a list that items could be checked off of, not that we've allocated $125,000 for these types of purchases, that we've allocated it for specific purposes, specific items that have been selected already.
It came up with the number by costing out stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to see, is what he costed out and what that list is. I'd be happy with that, and then if it goes on sale later, great. But that should be the check off at the back end as well.
I could see him saying from a quote, $125,000 for Cisco networking switches for these 3 buildings.
Yeah.
No more itemized than that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Because that's a specific use that follows this language.
Yep.
One thing I'd like to bear in mind is that we aren't taking up a ton of staff time to create overly detailed lists.
Well, he would create that though for the budget.
No,
Right.
no.
He would know.
No, understood, but I'm just saying that I'm not looking for, any more detail than he would have, that he would use to order or something. I don't want to start having, people jump through hoops to make crazy itemized lists.
Yeah, but you come up with a $125,000 number, you're not pulling it out of the sky.
No, I think we're saying the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
We're saying the same thing.
The example Mr. Pose now just gave is actually what he does give me when he provides his budget.
Okay.
So it is available.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And then item 8, the administration recommends the board approve authorized purchasers to make purchases up to $2,000 for any one student activity fund activity, and not to sign any corresponding contract for purchase subject to the following. Again, there's bullets. An example would be not tonight's F&P contract because that was over $3,000. But if you remember at the last meeting, we had several F&P contracts that were for $800. Actually listed on here tonight for next week. I have another one that's also for $800 for F&P to do sound. It's the small ones like that instead of coming to the board's essentially saying with this approval, anything under $2,000 for that, only for the student activity fund, they will be allowed to sign off.
They're all
But
pass-throughs.
it says that they have purchased in a budget submitted. and approved by the Director of Finance, are they gonna give you a yearly budget, or is this kind of as it goes along?
No, there's going to be an annual budget that, Dr. Ellis and Dr. Krauser will share with me, usually by October, so that we can see what'll be coming through for the year, and then we'll be sign off on that.
Obviously, they work on the musicals or something like that, but
Correct.
in general, we ought to see that same kind of list that we're seeing for the one before, some kind of a list.
These are all pass-throughs though, right?
They don't hit the general fund at all.
I don't care about the itemized list on
Yeah.
this one. To be
That's
honest,
right,
I
this
would
is their
remove
money.
that
Yeah.
language.
Wait a minute, well, but you're saying, but you, right in here, you say
No.
purchase in a budget submitted and
That's
approved by
for
the Director.
student activity, so we get a sense, for student activity, it's a matter of with their if they have to have a fundraiser to pay. So you should see the fundraiser, for example, Minithon, okay, they're doing a fundraiser, they're allowing, and I'm making these numbers up, right, to get all their prizes and activities and stuff for the kids. So what's the fundraiser to gather those funds? That's all I need to see is what's your fundraiser to pay for those
Okay,
expenses.
that's, I mean, I'm not asking again for, you know, a detailed list, but you're telling us that there is a budget someplace, that they've come up with a budget, right? That these student activities, whether it's the mini-thon or the tea club or
Correct.
whatever it is, they have a budget, or some of the honor societies, and that's, you know, that's what we, you know, I didn't know they worked on budgets, and that's fine, that's
Mhm.
good, I think it's a good thing for them to do.
Okay, so then 9 and 10 are,
One quick question. If, we're going to approve authorized purchasers, who
for student activities.
Yeah,
It
if we're
would-
gonna approve them, are we gonna have names? I mean, what defines an
It's-
authorized purchaser?
It's the signers for the student activity account when it comes to signing checks. So for like high school, it would be Dr. Ellis.
Already identified?
Yes, they're
Okay.
already identified. So then 9, 10, and 11 are, contracts that, high school is putting forward. And then the informational items listed there are, donations that have come in this past month. And as you can see, all but one of the donations is for, helping students with negative meal accounts. And that concludes my report.
Ms. Atkinson, thanks for hanging in there.
Sure. All right, so the regular seasons of winter sports have officially ended. However, a lot of athletes are moving on to postseason. So for swimming, the boys and girls swim teams just competed in counties last Thursday and Friday, and a lot of the swimmers placed. And then specifically, Aiden Fryer got second in 50 free. And so a lot of the boys and girls are moving on to districts, which will be March 3rd and 4th at Cumberland Valley. And also the boys and girls swim teams were division champions. The list is pretty extensive for who's going on to districts, but if you want it, I'm happy to get it for you. Basketball is also moving on to their first district game against Eastern, but they don't have the date yet. And then in the high school, Zoe Pratt's won the regional Poetry Out Loud competition and will be moving on to states. Caroline Liu, Sam Garncar's Caleb West, and Kenny Berlin competed on Brainbusters again, and that will air on WGAL on March 3rd at 1 p.m. And they were also division champions of their Quiz Bowl league after celebrating an undefeated season. Minithon is now just 11 days away, and so it'll be held next Friday from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. So please come out. We have family hour from 9 to 10 with our Fort Ammons family, and then our big reveal is around 6:15 a.m. And so throughout the night, we offer activities like the Locks of Lug hair cutting, a puppy room, a lot of sport tournaments, paint and juice, talent show, Netflix and stand, like just an endless amount. So it was a really fun time. Then today at the high school was the focus group for the superintendent search. A lot of students came, and it was really successful. There was a lot of productive conversation about what we want to see in a new superintendent. And then Dr. Krauser covered everything I had to say about the middle school, so thank you. And then York Suburban recently celebrated their first 100 days of school, and the only way that I knew that was because Valley View and Yorkshire kids dressed up in elderly costumes. And then also the state representative, Carol Hill Evans, visited 2 Valley View classrooms to read last week. And then I just wanted to finish my report by recognizing the audience today and truly saying in an unbiased manner, just purely as a high school student, that the concern over the possible changes in the music department has had a huge presence in the building with the students both involved and not involved in the arts. Like everybody's talking about it. I've shared this with Dr. Redding already, but a lot of the students and parents have expressed their thoughts on social media, as well as alumni who have shared their experience with YS Music and how beneficial and vital it was to their high school experience. And so if you're interested in seeing some of these comments, a lot of them are hashtagged with Save YS Music, and I'm really just telling you this because it is something that's so present in the school today. If you want to hear my personal opinion, I'm happy to offer it to you at any time, but that's all I have to say about that. So that's the conclusion of my report.
Elise, do you know approximately how many students attended the focus group meeting? Just, I mean, an estimate.
Ballpark, probably 40.
Thanks.
Thing, and Elise, I don't know if you're even aware of this, and board members, you just got an email, but I got a message from Matt Marshall today that congratulations, the York Suburban Girls Basketball Team has been selected as the Gretchen Wolf Schwartz sponsored Sportsmanship Award winner for the YAIAA Girls Basketball this year. That means that all the seniors on that team are eligible to apply for some amazing scholarship money that could total $50,000 for the girls. There'd be a $20,000, $15,000, $10,000, and $5,000 scholarship awarded because of the sportsmanship, and I think this reflects very well on our, not just our senior high school students, but the whole district, the parents, the staff, everybody that is participating. This is an amazing opportunity for that for the members of the senior members of that team to apply. So kudos.
I didn't know that.
Well, just,
Hats off to Coach Barley because it starts with her.
Well, it starts with a lot of our elementary programs too. She's very, very.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean, though.
The entire program is to be, but to be recognized by the
Right.
official is really something really neat. So I hope that we have a lot of the seniors on that
That's
team
great.
applying for these scholarships because that's substantial amounts of money. So, and board members, you just I think just got an email on it eventually too. So it's kind of neat. So congrats.
Finish, Elise?
Yes.
Okay, good deal. There's a committee schedule posted online, and then Academic Standards and Curriculum Committee report, Ms. Schrader.
Yes, in an effort to inform those who were not in attendance at our meeting, I'm going to run down the topics of discussion just to share what happened at our meeting. The elementary ELA purchase, Wonders, the purchase will take place the 1st of July with delivery expected 3 weeks later, and that does include an intervention piece that comes with that program. Our current materials will be repurposed. I thought this was kind of cool. Our current materials are going to be repurposed by an organization out of Lancaster called Book Savers, so they'll not just be dumped in the trash can. Also, Dr. Ketterman shared that professional development for staff on that program will take place, that was probably Dr. Stoltz that shared that, sorry, on March 9th as well as over the summer. Dr. Ellis attended our meeting and went into some detail with regard to how books are adopted, the whole process that's involved with that. He shared a handout, if anyone is interested in that handout. I believe there's a link in the confidential section of the minutes, but I also have one. If you'd like me to make a copy for you, I'd be happy to do that. Dr. Ketterman was in attendance, and she reported to us some changes that are taking place out of Harrisburg, changes from the SPP scores to the Pennsylvania Future Ready Index. And the bottom line on that is there's going to be a big piece with regard to career education, more focus on career education, which will end up being a third of the score, so less focus on test scores and more focus on career preparation. Our students, grades 3 through 11, will be expected to develop artifacts with regard to career education. So there was some discussion about what will an artifact be, what will satisfy, quote unquote, satisfy the state with regard to those artifacts. We're currently developing a way to record those and maintain an electronic portfolio for each student, so it's just some housekeeping and organization with regard to that. A career plan will need to be developed. Each student will need to develop a career plan by the end of 8th grade. And at the end of grade 11, those artifacts will be needed to show that work on the career path has taken place, and so that will all go into the score that were given by the state. Let's see, what else did I have in my notes here? We were fortunate to have a nice contingency of music parents in attendance, expressing many of the concerns that you heard tonight. I wanted to just give you a little bit of history about some of the issues at hand. Part of the proposed changes, it's my understanding, came to be because the current schedule is deemed to be somewhat inefficient by building principals up and down. So the goal was to try to create a more efficient schedule for the music teachers. Obviously, this stems from not wanting, with regard to the elementary 4th grade lessons, the concern was avoiding time missing core content. So I think the approach, the discussion that's taken place had that in mind, but the overriding goal is to accomplish the same things, have the same programs, the same extracurricular activities, the same lessons, but just have those take place in a more efficient manner. There was discussion with regard to the 4th grade lessons perhaps being moved to the before school slot, so during the teacher day, but not yet when students had arrived. The thinking being there may well be parents who would prefer to be able to have their students at school a little bit earlier so they could get off to work earlier themselves, for example. Clearly, the goal would not be to eliminate 4th grade lessons from students who are not in that situation. They're dependent on the bus getting them there and getting them, taking them home again. Then basically we'll figure it out, was what I was told, with regard to still having those opportunities available to all 4th graders. I did also want to share a little bit of history with regard to the number of music staffing. I asked for numbers on over the last 10 years. So from the school year of 08-09 through 10-11, there were 7 music teachers, and 11-12, 6.6. 12-13 through 16-17, there were 6.5, 6.5, and then this year it's 7. So I just wanted to share with those of you who are not here some of the history, some of the concerns. I don't know, to kind of confirm what was said earlier, there's not a real proposal as such. To my knowledge, this is to be discussed. We're still trying to figure it out and try to reach an efficient means of accomplishing the same thing. For example, there's one teacher that's in 4 buildings in one day. So I think the need for efficiency is clearly there. But if I could just, again, those music people who are still here, just to reiterate that the goal is not to eliminate or inconvenience anything in terms of the music education that we offer York suburban people. I think everybody sitting around these tables understands the value and the merit of the programming. I hope I didn't take too much time, but
At the risk of ripping the wound off again, in 15-16 we had 6.5, and it was the maximum size of the music program. So that was when music peaked in terms of the number of participants.
I'm sorry, what year was that?
15-16, I believe.
Okay.
So if that's the case, and
6.5, yes.
I'm having trouble figuring out where the perception that the music program was going away is, because...
Well, and I think the fact that we have a middle school band director who's out on medical leave this year sort of facilitated that other half. We went from 6.5 last year to 7 this year, and I think his absence sort of precipitated that
But then
extra.
we added a long-term sub for a year, too, so we're really at 8
Well, no,
because he's not there.
no, that's a slot,
Okay.
but that isn't a position.
Okay.
We have a long-term sub who's filling in for him, but it's the teacher who's out on medical leave. It's his job. So we only have 7. I don't know if I can answer it, but I see puzzle. I'll try.
At this point, there is no proposal to the board regarding the situation. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay. So in listening to the discussion tonight, I appreciate some of the concerns that were offered. And my question is, at what point does a proposal come to the board, and then at what point do we as a board have these discussions if there are proposals about some alterations or changes?
My sense is it would be related to budget discussions. I mean, that's not my call, but
Personnel related.
It'll come through personnel.
Yeah.
but it's budget related it'll
So these proposals could be partly personnel, partly curriculum?
Well, I mean, the ball fell in my lap just because we were having a meeting, and
Right.
you know, I mean,
Short straw.
I'm shooting from the hip here. You know, that's the way it actually came down. So eventually, you know, it'll come through curriculum, the curriculum committee, I guess, and then would be disseminated as to whether or not it takes place. Am I, John?
No, I think that's right. I think ultimately this proposal will come from personnel, and then finance will see it, and it will be somehow put together. And I would think we would talk about it before it came out as part of the budget, would be my expectation of that.
Okay.
Because not only do we have to talk about the budget in the context of
Right.
plan, but we have to talk about the budget in the context of autistic learning.
Right.
And,
Right. Right.
lower school teachers of, kindergarten, or not kindergarten, 1 through 5. So there are all these requests that they're floating around.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, they all have to come here for us to look at.
Right.
And there's definitely overlap.
They're,
About something like the music department.
Right.
There's curriculum. Right.
It's academics. Yeah. Right.
What goes on with facilities and finance.
Right.
They're not separate.
Right. Yeah, so my interest is just having a sense of when it's the right time to have board-wide conversation on this. And it sounds like it'll be at the next set of committee meetings.
Well, I don't think it. I mean, there's not an agenda for next personnel meeting. So
it will
I think
have
you're
to
on the
all
right
be
track.
there, but ultimately, it's got to be the budget discussion in finance, because at some point, we have to approve
Right.
tax increases, costs, figuring out how we're going to pay for it.
Right.
And that's head count tied to curriculum. So the case for curriculum comes up, then the case for teachers comes up, then the case for additional programs comes up. all this gets laid on the table. You have this pie and you decide how it fits. So it's gonna be a finance discussion with the board, yeah.
Right, and one other thing, and all this is on the premise that there will be a proposal. That is, that in the end, all this conversation, there may not be any particular proposal of music.
There may be a proposal to do nothing, there may be a
Right.
proposal
Right.
to make changes for efficiency.
Right.
Just by way of history, if I could, and then I don't mean to step on you, but Dr. Redding, it's again my understanding, Dr. Redding was approached by building principals, other administrators, that was a very inefficient way, the way it was working this year. And this is the first year, I mean, I'm saying this because you're a newbie, this is the first year of this particular schedule. So with fresh eyes, he looked at it and said, you know, this might be what could happen. And at a department meeting of the music faculty, he said this. And then, you know, the ball got to rolling, and I think, you know, a lot of misinformation, I'll use that phrase, is out there, and, you know, concerns then were generated based upon information, and that's sort of where we are at this point in time.
Right.
I disagree that this needs to bubble up through any other process. In 2 weeks, we are going to vote on a proposal to add autistic learning support for K through 5. And this decision is no different. In that vote, we are going to vote to add all the staff that were on that one slide that cost us $250,000. We are going to commit $250,000 in our upcoming unpassed budget to that effort. And I would say it is appropriate to avoid having to have this discussion every 2 weeks, that we take a vote that says we are going to staff music at the quantity that it's at now. And it will highly annoy me if I have to come to this meeting every 2 weeks and my friends in the audience have to show up every 2 weeks to keep pushing the point that we should make a decision. Right now, we're making a decision offline, and our inability to vote on it is just kicking this can down the road. I mean, why not have the vote?
Well, in the first place, the Autistic Support Initiative has been put forward as a proposal.
Yeah.
The whole budget's been laid out, the personnel impact is laid out, the savings are laid out, the projected impact on IU is laid out. That's concrete. Like it or not, it's well defined. That's not true for the music program.
It's absolutely true.
It is not true.
No,
What is true, Mike, is that we have status quo. That's what's true.
No,
We don't
that
have a
proposal
proposal.
has
It
been
is
in
not a
concrete
proposal.
laid out to the staff.
It is not a proposal.
It's a proposal.
I think it was a discussion point.
I don't see that as a proposal.
That wasn't a-
It's a
Anywhere
proposal.
near the formal
I
sense
don't-
that we are considering an autistic support program.
No.
It's a written proposal.
Well, let me see it. Let me see the proposal.
You got sent it earlier in the week by Dr. Redding.
That's not a proposal. Those were exhibits that laid out an alternative. It wasn't a proposal.
It was a proposal.
Well,
And
we
no
have a
proposal.
semantics discussion.
It is as much of a proposal as we're getting on the autistic support. I think
Oh,
it's
no.
actually
Well, that's not
more than
accurate
that.
at all. That's
Oh.
not accurate at all.
No, I disagree, Mike.
I want to vote.
Well, we don't have anything to vote on.
Then we're going to kick it down the road until we, by default, don't vote to hire another teacher.
Well, what you could do, I guess, since it's not on tonight's agenda, is to get it on the next voting meeting agenda with a firm proposal
The
from the
proposal,
administration.
why
Then we can vote on it.
Why does the administration have to dictate what is on our
The
agenda?
administration
it's their
controls
job.
the structure of the district, Mike. We don't. We don't go to them and say, you will have X number of teachers. You will offer X
I
program.
think that's our job.
No, it's
No,
not.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Not
Our
right.
job is to control the budget of this district.
Our job is to govern the district. It's not to tell the superintendent or the administration how they're supposed to structure their programs.
We're about governance. We're about governance.
I don't need this speech, Lois. Don't need it at all.
I'm not so sure.
I think we are in charge of this district. It is our job to govern this district. And part of that is if we do not agree with the proposal brought forth by the administration.
But
There's no proposal.
There's no proposal,
There is a
Mike.
proposal.
There is not.
By
Green,
default,
you've been
there
at
is.
this a long time. Do we have a proposal from the administration relative to the structure of the music department?
I have not seen anything.
Have an in-writing proposal.
I have seen nothing. I truly have seen nothing.
What about you, Dr. Ketterman?
And
Have
when
you
I
seen it?
see, when I, it
Don't
has
let the
been
public
my
get
job,
involved.
if there's a proposal, the proposal comes on the agenda, and then the board votes on it.
It's written in Dr. Kevin's.
All right, one more, come on.
Sure, what I perceive is goodwill on all sides, and I see at this point that the board has no proposal. That's what I'm seeing, that there's discussions going on, and we as a board don't have something to act on yet. However, as a governing matter, I have a guiding principle that I would like to see a culture of excellence with the music program, so that anything that the administration might propose to the board maintains that. And that's just me speaking as a board member. So that's a guiding principle of mine. So I'm back to the question then of, how do we engage this as a board? And where I'm left with is that we wait for a proposal to come forth. And then we would be responsive to that.
And I guess the only last thing I'll say, and I promise this will be it, I'll shut up, is that I get concerned because we want to vote on a non-proposal here. A few weeks ago, I said in a meeting, administrative voiced concerns about class size, and we just excoriated them because they didn't have hard facts in a proposal. Now what we're saying is we want to vote on a non-proposal. I think we want to be very careful and be consistent with our expectations toward administration. So I encourage administration to do fact-finding and to look for ways to save money. Then I encourage them to come forward with proposals for us to evaluate. I mean, money is not free. And so I love the fact that they're looking. But, and I'll shut up.
And that ends my report.
Mr. Robinson. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Fryery.
Mrs.
Facilities.
Fryery, I defer to you.
Thank you, Cicely. Facilities, the minutes from the November 8th meeting are provided. I would tell you that our next meeting is this coming Wednesday at 4:30 here in the boardroom. We're looking at the projects for next year. Several budget projects are already out for bids, with bid dates coming up during March, and we will continue to look at projects for the projects for next summer, for this coming summer as well as the summer of 2019. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Posnow. Gentlemen, as you will see, the minutes of January 9th are provided. I'm sure you all appreciate the Hemingway-esque brevity of the same object. Number 2, the consent agenda. You have before you the personnel report, which includes retirement, resignation, appointment, employment, leave of absence, substitute teacher, prospective teacher as a substitute teacher, guest teachers, volunteers, spring coaches, and volunteers. Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items.
Second.
We can have a short vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Mr. Tolman, policy.
Policy committee met and we reviewed 7 policies that are listed in the agenda, and we'll be bringing those forth for approval and or discussion. So, is there any discussion on any of those policies?
I have a couple pages worth of bullet points.
Oh, goody.
Painful. I don't know that this is really the appropriate place to do that. Maybe I should just email this to the members of the committee and then have them
Okay.
take it under advisement. Some are very straightforward stylistic issues. I don't think we have a style document again. I see these inconsistencies in the way these things are laid out, and that drives me crazy. Capitalization, placement of colons, incomplete sentences. But there are some others that are really, I think, serious. When we use phrases like, "it is recommended that every effort be made," in a policy, that's a totally unlimited statement. We can't.
Where are our friends in PSBA when you need them? You'd think they'd do a better job with it.
Lawyers love that language.
Sure, be as vague as you can, right?
Do you have non-editorial items? I think editorial items, we can go back and have those
Some
in
is
place for the
definition,
next
for
meeting.
example, in 204, there's a list, there's something called, on page 8, a licensed practitioner of the healing arts.
We talked about this for like 15 minutes, so.
That's
That is a legal
language,
term,
I guess that's fine.
Pennsylvania State Code.
I guess that's
It
fine.
is?
Absolutely.
Well, this is Pennsylvania, what would
Okie dokie then.
I thought it was open-ended, but it is not, apparently.
We had a lot of discussion about that.
I guess my only question is, you have an extensive list here. What triggers the policy review?
So it's triggered by really two things primarily. One of them is that PSBA issues I guess it's PSBA that issues that letter, but it's a recommendation of the things that we need to do. Say like the employment of superintendent, assistant superintendent policy. The law has changed. The policies need to be updated to reflect the changes to the law. I think something along the lines of 60-day or 90-day notice was the big thing. So they put out a notice that says you have to change these policies because of legal changes, or we recommend changes or additions of policies because they're hot topic items, I'm going to say. And so those things come from administration takes a look at those and says, yes, we have to do those. We discuss them. The other trigger would be that that we've interacted with the policy from the admin stance and found it to be wanting. So when that happens, they'll come with a recommendation to correct, whatever deficiencies were in that policy. So that's generally what triggers it. I think the majority of these were actually from the PSBA update, with one or two of them being, from staff recommendation because they had issues.
And from a historical point of view, 3 or 4 years ago, we had allowed ourselves to get into a bad place where we hadn't addressed policies for several years, and we had hundreds of these that we had to do. So we would like to stay reasonably current, if possible.
Stay caught up, yeah. But now, Joel, did you have? My concern with passing those on to committee members is if we're going to vote on it in 2 weeks, then
I'd like we not vote.
Okay, let's send it back.
Table it.
There were
to vote.
a couple of these that I think need to be voted on.
You want to deal with them tonight?
Except my computer's going to shut off because we took too long here.
Battery's running out. What do you need? What do you want me to call up?
See what you get for coming to a meeting.
It's both, or no. I would say let's send those comments. The ones that have to be addressed, we'll hash out. I think it's like two of them that needed to be that Dr. Redding felt needed to be addressed in the next meeting. The others can wait.
Yeah, I guess in a nutshell, the things that are most concerning to me are these open-ended statements or open-ended commitments that the board has to follow up on somehow, and I just don't know how you do that. How do you make every effort? to work collaboratively, and then you won't initiate formal action until all these every efforts have been exhausted.
Right.
I don't know how you do that. This is law.
So we're going to table them.
I'll send it back to committee and if they can.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Lincoln Intermediate Unit Report, the link is on the page. York Adams Academy, Ms. Frerick.
While you're still under Lincoln Intermediate,
Mhm.
could I speak to the Lincoln Intermediate JOA, which is responsible for the Learning Center here in York, which is the old Central High School. Actually had a reorganization meeting finally because we don't meet until later in the year. And Ron Gronke from Southern was elected president of the group, and Bob Flaherty from Eastern was elected vice president. We also approved a $36,000 expenditure to upgrade security and communications upgrades in the building. And on top of that, we are saving about $35,000 because, Lois, and you will like this, the students from School of Technology, along with one of their teachers, are going to do the complete installation of all of this work. So
Yeah, that's great.
We're saving. It's
I
a
didn't
real
know about that.
collaborative effort, and we're very,
Yeah.
very excited about that. So that concludes my report for the LIU JOA. I might ask if we could kind of stick that in the list of reports that comes, because I do have things every other month if possible. York Adams Academy, we continue to use our 12 spaces at the academy, and we too had our reorganization meeting, and Linda Morningstar from Northeastern was elected vice president, and I was again elected vice president of the board. So that concludes my report.
The board meeting committee schedule is posted online. And one last call. Anybody in the audience, would you like to speak? Yeah.
I just want to ask a question too, just bringing up about all of this.
She needs a
Sorry.
name and everything.
Once again.
Christy Atkinson, 1401 Old Farm Lane. So, a couple of things that are unclear to me, and I just want to understand better, because I know that we're all here, not, nobody's getting paid to sit here, so we realize I don't want to be, I just want to have everyone understand where we are, and so that if, when you do vote, it's an educated vote. If there is a vote, this is what I don't understand. So in asking the teachers, when I had heard about some of these things, and I like to go right to the source and understand where things are coming from, so I have the facts. In asking the teachers at a music department meeting, there was a loose proposal. So it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was like the autistic proposal, but it was here's what 2018, 2019 we're proposing it looks like. What I don't know if the board will be voting on is because Mr. Biddle, who's been out on sick leave for 2 years now, his job, to what I understand, his contract is officially up in October of next year. So that will just dissolve. So unless, am I not right about that?
No. Teachers don't work under individual contracts.
Okay. Okay. But his job will just go away. If the long-term sub, there's a long-term sub in his position right now at the middle school.
No.
Yes, Mr. Brill.
The job does not follow the person.
The job won't necessarily go away. It's an authorized position.
Okay, so that's what I wasn't sure about. So if Mr. Biddle doesn't come back next year, and it doesn't look like he will because I don't think his health will allow him, and Mr. Biddle is just a 1-year contracted long-term sub, or I'm sorry, Mr. Brill, then would the question is does the board have to decide on his position? Like, would that normally come under you because his position will just go away? If nothing happens, it would just go away, and you'd automatically go to 6.
I would let's don't talk about it in terms of Mr. Biddle's position going away.
Okay.
Mr. Biddle is an employee of the district.
Okay.
Mr. Biddle is still employed.
Right, and I don't no disrespect to that, but that's where the vacancy is coming up because
if Mr. Biddle retires,
right,
the board doesn't say we're taking that position away. The school district has that position to work with. Now, having said that, the board always has the rights, when the school district comes in with a budget, to make determinations about cost. But there's no going away of this position.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'm not sure if
Well-
that's what's
well,
coming up on
I-
Facebook. but
The reason I'm talking about Mr. Biddle's position.
Okay, well, let's stop talking about Mr.
Okay,
Biddle.
okay.
Mr.
His-
Biddle
his
is
re-
here.
Right. I'm sorry, but part of the proposal is that Mr. Hustler, who is the current high school band director, next year take over all of the middle school band and all of the high school band, and then all of the ensuing extracurriculars, figuring that out and outsourcing. That's where I'm getting that from, and so that's what I just wanted to
Yeah,
understand.
I'd be careful about all of that.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
And I'm just getting that because I asked questions, because I wanted to have correct
to who?
information. I'm sorry?
To who?
To teachers. I asked direct questions to teachers when I started to hear some swirling.
I would say come to the administration. But to be clear, Mr. Biddle is still.
Oh, yes.
Mm.
And I'm sorry if that came across disrespectful. I love Mr. Biddle.
Okay.
I know he's an employee.
Well, it's a personnel matter, and it's
Yeah.
awkward to discuss
sorry,
it in
sorry,
public
sorry.
session.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
But, okay, I just wanted to know if that would even come
Okay.
to a vote. All right.
I guess I have a question. I'd like to.
Well, I'd rather not answer too many questions.
Yeah,
if you
what-
have a comment, you can
But
have a
after
comment.
hearing Lois-Ann Schroeder, after hearing Stephen speak up, am I addressing the wrong body as a homeowner in this district? You've just said go to the administrator.
If you
I
have a
thought
specific
that
question.
the administrators report to you, and that I wanted to come to you saying I would hope that you would have the goal of a high-quality district, district of prestige and excellence, which would reflect well on us and would do well for homeowner values and crime and everything else. I don't know what part of governance you actually hold if you aren't paying attention to the high-level issues. The administrators you have will have to follow the high-level pieces. So my question is, do I now have to go to each of the administrators who are talking to your temporary superintendent to try to have something that I think is a broader, longer-range governance issue of a vision of a district that from year to year, I appreciate the word efficiency, I appreciate the word this is coming up with budget, but I don't see how that sells my house. I don't see how that preserves a culture of excellence, and I believe that sits here at the governance body of the people we elect, and that you then set the tone for the administrators before they start messing with positions, in understanding the higher level pieces of the government of this district and the way it affects me as a tax holder. Now, I have no problem spending 10 minutes with each administrator who may have spoken to your temporary employee about what they wanted to go into a not proposal that was presented. But I came to you. I think you need to own the governance. I think you need to own the vision. And are you saying I really came to the wrong body? That's my question to you.
No, but thank you.
I think the other thing, this is Christy Rangillian
Name,
again.
please.
Christy Rangillian, 2641 Raleigh Drive. I think the other thing is we're playing a game of semantics. What's a proposal? The administrators went to the music department with a proposal, a plan, an idea, call it whatever word you like, to the music teachers. There was no misunderstanding, respectfully, Lois-Ann, because what you said was in that proposal during your report a couple of minutes ago is exactly what you've listened to at academic committee and tonight. We are very clear in what you said and in what we said, that we're talking about the same thing. Moving fourth grade lessons to before school. Fourth grade lessons that at half the district aren't happening in academic time. Elimination of a teaching position. There's no misunderstanding. What you just said was presented is what we understand. Let's be clear. I would also like to point out that in 2007, when you had 3 music teachers retire, you replaced them with 2. You did, at the high school secondary level. I have the data, it's on your website, had 2 minutes to speak, already blew through that, I can send it to you, or look on your own website. I spent 2 hours Sunday morning, and I don't have a kid in this district. Pay attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bella Spadotto, 138 North Marshall Street. I'd also like to add on to what Mrs. Rangillian said, that we've had Dr. Redding come in. He came in a couple weeks ago to our band class in the middle of the day to discuss this proposal or not proposal that that has been passed around, and he went to the chorus and orchestra classes as well, and it's been made clear what he is, or what the administration is planning on proposing.
Rhonda Abel, 455 Ardmore Lane. Ellen, just to address, I know I heard you ask who were the 3 staff people back in 2007. Mr. Anderson, Mr. Young, and Mr. Lutz all retired that year. They were all, the 3 of them shared the high school, both curricular and extracurricular program. When Matt Hustler came in, that then became shared, all those duties became shared between just him and Jim Biddle. It has been that way until the past 2 years when Mr. Biddle went on his leave, and the proposal that was given, proposal, whatever you want to call it, a written document handed to the staff by Dr. Redding, by Tom Ketterman, and by Natalie Furman, a written piece of paper that said, and used the words, reduction of staff from 7 to 6, and also outline moving the majority, not just if they want to because it's convenient, the majority of 4th grade instrumental instruction to the hour of 8 to 9 a.m. before the school day started. That was given in writing to your staff. So I just want to clarify. Thank you.
We done? Thank you. All right. I think we're...
I would just like to say, regarding Mrs. Hammond's retirement, I just would like to go on record, long-standing, long-term employee who's retiring. I don't want us to close the meeting without giving her a shout-out. Not only has she taught family and consumer science for many years, she has done a lot of extracurricular, club sponsoring, class advisor things, and my hat's off to her and for her service to the York Suburban School District.
Thank you.
I would second that. Long-standing, good employee.
And we are adjourned. Thank you. Quick 5 minutes and we will start up again.